Hello, today we will be going over a quick demo of iLab to show you the capabilities of the system and some of the things that it can do. Well, the page that you're looking at right now is the external landing page. You'll notice that it has basic information about the core. This is a page that you land on prior to logging into the iLab system. So this is information that your implementation associate will need to populate. I'm actually going to go ahead and log in, and as I log in, I'm going to log in as a core admin, just as you will be logging into the system. You will use your Penn State credentials, but today I will be using some iLab credentials to get logged into the testing system. And once we get logged into the system, we're going to hop to the About Our Core tab. And what you'll notice is that it's a replica of what we were seeing on the external landing page. So this information can also be accessed once you're logged into the system. So if the users needed to get some phone numbers for leadership or learn your location and hours of operation, they still have access to that information once they're logged into the system. The first tab I want to review is the Schedule Equipment tab. This tab is where all of your resources will be located. So if you have resources that you allow users to schedule time on, it could even be something like a room or a person within your facility, a staff person that they're allowed to schedule time with. This is where all those calendars will live. So you see we've got a number of different calendars in here. To schedule on one of these calendars, it's pretty simple. You just click on the name of the calendar, or you can also click on View Schedule. And this is going to open up the actual schedule for the users to schedule time on. So you see that there are a few different reservations already listed on here. And I'm going to click and drag on the calendar to schedule a reservation. Now remember, I said that I am logged in as a core admin. And so as a core admin, I need to select the person that I'm making a reservation on behalf of. So I'm going to go ahead and select my person and click Next. And then we're going to see the reservation details screen appear. This is where we would fill out some additional details for the reservation. Sometimes cores add in additional forms where they need to gather much more information, so they put that information in a form. We would also double check the start and end time of this reservation. If we clicked and dragged incorrectly, it's pretty simple to come here and update that. We would just change the time and click the Save Changes button. And that's also going to edit, you'll see down below, the cost of the reservation. So we've now got 3.5 hours at $70. Then we would also want to select our payment information for this user. So what we would see in this dropdown for these users is the list of accounts, cost centers that they have access to. It's only going to display those that appear in their lab that their PI has access to and that their PI has given this user access to if this person is not a PI. So we'll go ahead and select that account cost center and scroll down and click Save Reservation. And it's as simple as that. So what you'll notice if I scroll down a little bit further, we have our reservation now placed on the calendar for Harper. She is in there, and tomorrow she'll be able to show up and make this reservation on this specific calendar. Quite simple. So I'm going to go ahead and click Return to Schedules. And that's the information that I wanted to show you for the Schedule Equipment tab. When you're preparing for implementation, you will need to make sure that you have the list of equipment that you want to be listed on this tab for your implementation associate, as well as any details such as min and max time for these calendars. We can also put pictures here. So if you have pictures that you'd like us to add in, you can send those our way as well. The next tab that I'd like to review is the Request Services tab. So this is going to be for more project-based cores. You can see here at the top, we've got a couple of different projects listed, so a DNA sequencing and a histology project. This is where your users are going to come and request kind of an overall project that might have many different services attached to it. So histology requests, they might be using many different samples and asking for many different stains or services within that. So this one single request is going to house all of the cost for that request. Now, I did say cost. If we look below here, we've got a service list. You can think of this as something like a price list. So you can see a number of different services here. You can also see the cost that's associated with those services. Now, again, I am logged in as a core admin, so I'm able to see the different price types that we have available and the different costs that are associated with those price types. Your users will only see the price type that they've been given access to. So internal Penn State users, they're only going to see that internal price type. If you have an external user that isn't academic, they're going to see that external price type and nothing else. So these are the different categories that we have listed for our prices, our different services here. So we'll go ahead and minimize those. What I do want to show you is how to make a project request. So we'll go ahead and initiate one of these project requests by clicking Initiate Request. And again, I'm logged in as a core admin, so I'm always making requests on behalf of individuals. So I'm going to type in my customer's name and click Proceed. And then what this is going to populate is similar to that schedule equipment details. This is going to populate some additional information that I need to fill out for this request. So for this histology request, there is a form that's attached. So you'll need to you or the user will need to fill out some additional information so that the core knows everything that they need to know to be able to complete this request for this user. So you can come in here and just fill this out. If these fields were required, they'd have a red asterisk by it, and the user would be required to fill out that information. You can notice that none of these are required, so it'll allow me to bypass that information. Further below, you see that I already have some services added to this request. You can, by default, add on some services that the user will always get charged for certain requests, or you can leave these services off of the request and basically just ask that they fill out the form prior to getting charges added to it or kind of a quote created for them. So that's the route that's most typical. That's the route we're going to go with today. So you see I deleted those charges. Again, I still am wanting to select payment information for this. So we're seeing the same account cost centers show up for us. We still need to pick something here from the list. And what we'll go ahead and do is submit this request to the researcher. The reason why it's saying we're submitting the request to the researcher is because I'm logged in as an admin. I'm making this request on behalf of this researcher, and I just need to double check that they're okay that I've submitted this request on behalf of them. So that's what you see here. We've now moved to the View All Requests tab, and what we see is a queue of all of the work to be done for the core. You see that this is the request that we just submitted. It's sitting and awaiting for researcher approval because we need Harper to say, yep, go ahead, move forward with this request. You'll also notice on this tab that there are a number of different statuses here. These are statuses that you'll learn much more about during implementation, but it does help you and the researcher, the person who submitted this request, have a good understanding of where you stand with this request and potentially when it might be finished. What I want to do is actually open up one of these requests so you can see some additional details. So if we open up this request, what you'll be able to see is the different services that are attached to this request. So you see that these are the two charges per this request that Harper submitted that I'm going to be charging her. You have the ability to add on some additional services. So we'll go ahead and click that Add Service button. And we'll add in another bead level data here, click the green plus button, and what you'll notice is that it's going to add in the background onto this request so that Harper is going to additionally be charged for that bead request. So I'm going to go ahead and exit out of that. It's going to load here. What you also see is we've got some process buttons here. When it comes to billing, some cores bill for the entire project all at the same time. That's pretty simple to do in the system. All you would do is mark the entire project as complete, and therefore the charges that fall within that project would also be marked as complete and they would be ready to bill. We do have the ability, though, to keep the project open and just bill for the charges that you have at the time. So maybe these are the charges that are ready to be processed and billed for this month, so we can go ahead and process them and also mark them as complete. Now, what you'll also notice here is that we've got a billing status that has moved to ready to bill and a work status that's been marked complete. So these charges will be ready to bill when we get to that stage within our monthly billing cycle. There is a lot of information that is gathered here. We have some filters that you can also access here to help you better filter down your list of requests should you be a core that has a number of different requests. You also still have the ability to come back in once a request has been completed and take a look at the details of that request. Nothing is ever deleted from the system as far as these requests go, so you'll still always be able to pull those up based on some additional filtering here. Now, the reservations tab, this is kind of jumping back to what the schedule equipment tab is, but really what the reservations tab allows you to do is, as a core admin, see all of the pieces of equipment and the different reservations that are on it. So kind of across all of the pieces of equipment in your facility. So you can see here, if I scroll down, we've got a couple of different reservations on the ARIA here that I had scheduled earlier. So it's just a nice place to come for a 1 day or 3 day or weekday snapshot view of your reservations. By default, this tab is not viewable to your users. It is something that you can enable for them. So that's something you'll want to talk to your implementation associate about. Now you'll notice the remaining 4 tabs that we have here have an orange crown on them. What that means is that these tabs are only accessible by core admins. So your users will never see these 4 tabs listed here. The first tab that we have is the People tab. Now what the People tab is going to allow you to do is see all of the people who have come into your iLab site and made a reservation or request. These are considered your customers within the iLab site. So you can see a long number of people here. You also have the ability to filter down if you're looking for certain people from institutions or maybe certain users from labs. You have the ability under the bulk actions to download this list if you need to do some data work in Excel. You also have the ability to email a list of people. What this tab is mostly used for, especially for equipment cores, is to mark somebody as trained or untrained on pieces of equipment. So you can see that we have the ability to do trained and untrained statuses on certain calendars. And if I were to check this box, it would mark them as trained on those specific pieces of instrumentation. On the reporting tab, pretty basic, just sounds like what you would think it would be. This is where you would come to run the reports that you are typically used to doing. There are a number of different reports that you can pull from the system. There, you can see if I scroll down, there's just some default reports that have been run. You can see the cost by week, by lab, by service, those sorts of things. You can also filter down by specific users or maybe different departments. So there's a lot of ability within this reporting tab. My recommendation is to always make sure your implementation associate knows what kind of reports you're interested in running because they can help you build those prior to you going live with your site. We move on to the billing tab. What this is going to allow you to do, of course, is to bill for those charges that you have in the system. So any of those charges that have been marked completed, like we saw on the View All Request tab, will show up in this area for us to bill. And same with those equipment reservations. Those reservations that you're ready to bill for, pull into this specific tab. And this is where you would create a billing event. And this will take an entire training with implementation. There are some specific steps that you have to follow to make sure that the billing file will get sent to the accounting system, to IBIS. And the last tab that we have here is the administration tab. Now, your implementation associate is really going to spend most of their time in this tab. You actually won't go over this tab until one of your very last meetings. There are a number of different settings that live here in this other setting space that your implementation associate is going to be turning off and on based on the conversations that they have with you during implementation, so they can really tweak your site to get it set up to be the best workflow for you and your facility. That concludes the high-level overview and demo of the iLab site. Thank you.